Hello, welcome back to the Nook. I'm Daniel, and today's video is going to be a discussion on the author who wrote this book here, Crime and Punishment. I'm talking about Fyodor Dostoevsky. Kind of said that wrong. So yeah, it's going to be a while before I finish David Copperfield, so that'll be the next review up sometime next week. So this week we're talking about this author, Dostoevsky. He's a Russian author. These are all translated works, obviously, as I can't read Russian. So before I get into some of the other books he's written, I'll just tell you about my initial experience with Dostoevsky, how I got started. So throughout middle school and high school, I wasn't interested in classics. And then, as I mentioned in my Dickens video, post-high school, I got into Dickens. And I kind of just started falling in love with different classics authors. And my friend was always telling me about Dostoevsky and Tolstoy and these Russian authors. And one day I picked up a book, this book here, Crime and Punishment. It was a different edition. This is a beautiful hardcover I got. This one's a beautiful hardcover that I got for my birthday a couple years ago. And yeah, so what can I say about Dostoevsky? I mean, as soon as I started reading Crime and Punishment, I really got into it, and then I kept reading. So I read other things by him. I read this book here, The Gambler, which is very short, as you can see. Here's a bigger one. This is The Idiot. This is a very popular Dostoevsky book. And then more recently, I think the last one I read that I'd never read before is this one, Demons. So this is another really big book too. So yeah, like I said, these are all translated works. And yeah, so he's a classics author. Just like with Dickens, a lot of his pacing is more methodical and slow, unlike with fantasy, where there's not a whole lot of action or anything going on. It's really just a lot of character studies, kind of just talking about, especially Crime and Punishment. You get to see this really deranged character, which is Raskolnikov. It's not really a spoiler because it's in the beginning, but Raskolnikov, the whole story is him. He plots this murder where he's going to murder a old woman that no one would miss, a pawnbroker. And then he's living with the guilt of his murder, and he's just kind of slowly going insane and dealing with his own thoughts, dealing with wondering if people somehow know that he's killed this old woman. It's kind of weird. It's a very weird book, but I think it's my favorite. I forgot to grab it, but I also have The Brothers Karamazov, which is another big one. I think that was actually the second book I read after Crime and Punishment. And The Brothers Karamazov follows, I think it's 3 or 4 brothers, and you're trying to figure out who's the one that killed their father. It's what, a patricide. So, and then yeah, The Idiot. This one's really good. It's just kind of a character study on a person that people view as an idiot or a simpleton. He has these problems. I don't know if it's like seizures or something. Yeah, and then The Gambler is this book here. It's about this man that meets an elderly lady who's really into gambling, and she gets him involved in gambling, and that really messes up his life. So Dostoevsky didn't always write, very happy stuff. Even Dickens, there's usually some light at the end of the tunnel, whereas with Dostoevsky, a lot of it is a character study on, like in the case of Raskolnikov, someone that's very messed up mentally, or, dealing with mental health problems. But, I mean, even that one, there was some hope in Crime and Punishment at the end there. So, yeah, so that's kind of how I got started with Dostoevsky, and if I were to recommend, I would recommend Crime and Punishment. Like I said, it's a bit, this book is a bit on the shorter side. Oh, well, okay, yeah, it's over 500 pages. I guess it's not that short, but yeah, I found that book, and it is a lot faster paced than, say, Brothers Karamazov. Brothers Karamazov is a book that has a lot more going on. It's a lot of little stories happening, especially revolving around this murder. But yeah, Dostoevsky is just, and I don't know what the best translations are really, but I find he's one of my favorite, the classics. And of the Russians, I've read others. I've read Tolstoy, who of course wrote War and Peace, one of his most well-known books. I've read Solzhenitsyn, who's also really good, but I just find Dostoevsky the best. His writing's really good. His characters are really well thought out. And yeah, he really examines humanity and the way humans are. He did have the Christian belief in his life. I heard about, just like with Tolstoy and Solzhenitsyn, he was a Christian believer. But yeah, he was not afraid to talk about intense things and dealing with parts of life that are hard and the poor class, kind of like Dickens. And I just found I really was drawn to Dostoevsky's stuff to his work, and really enjoyed just reading about reading his stories. So I could almost give a ranking here. I would say Crime and Punishment is my favorite of his, and then I would say Brothers Karamazov, which again is like up on my shelf, which I'm not going to grab it now because I'd have to get up out of my chair. But Brothers Karamazov is another one I really like. The Gambler here was okay. It's kind of a novella. It's pretty short. Oh wow, yeah, it's like not even 200 pages. But I would say The Idiot is another one that's one of my favorites. This is up there in one of my favorites. And then I really liked this one here, Demons. This was more recently, just earlier this year I read Demons. And this one, I can just read you a bit of the back. It says, inspired by the true story of a political murder that horrified Russia in 1869, Fyodor Dostoevsky conceived Demons as a novel pamphlet in which he would say everything about the plague of materialist ideology that he saw infecting his native land. What he emerged with in 1872 was at once his darkest novel until The Brothers Karamazov and his most ferociously funny, for alongside its relentlessly escalating plot of conspiracy and assassination, Demons, which earlier translators erroneously titled The Possessed, is a blistering comedy of ideas run amok, and like all of Dostoevsky's novels, it is also a riot of literary voices, whose profusion, energy, and variety are rendered wonderfully in this new English version. So yeah, that was a really, that one really got me. It was, the ending to Demons was pretty bleak. I won't spoil it, but basically there's something that happens at the end where I'm just like, okay, that's how it ended. Like it wasn't super happy, but I did like that a lot. And same with The Idiot. The Idiot didn't really have a happy ending per se. It was what it was. It was a good story, and I don't think I am partial to happy endings, but when it comes to classics, I can appreciate classics that maybe aren't so happy. I mean, you look at Romeo and Juliet, that's a classic story that's totally a tragedy. So I don't mind some tragedies. But not all of Dostoevsky's books are. I would say Crime and Punishment has some hope at the end. So that's kind of my thoughts on Dostoevsky. This could just be a really short video. I don't know what else I could say, except if you've never read him and you want to try something a bit more challenging, a bit more dense, kind of like Dickens, I'd give him a go. I think it's my friend who really was into Dostoevsky before I was, or same with Tolstoy. I might have read Tolstoy before I read Dostoevsky, but anyway, yeah, I just wanted to do this chat about this author who I think if you're interested in classics, if you read some Dickens, maybe you read some Mark Twain, you want to try something a little more challenging, I recommend Dostoevsky. I will also say Tolstoy and Solzhenitsyn are also really good too. Maybe don't try War and Peace. That's a massive book and it's very dense, but I loved it. But for Dostoevsky, yeah, he's just really good at characters. I think that's where he excels, is the characters he comes up with and the ideas and how he'll kind of present an idea of something that's telling kind of like a moral idea, but he really does it well. He really presents it well, what he's trying to get across about the point he's trying to make in the novel. Because I think a lot of authors are trying to make a point about what their novel is, what their message. And Dostoevsky always has a very, very, you can always tell what the message is. He's usually commenting on something, like in Demons, they used a bit with comedy, or Crime and Punishment, you can kind of see where he's going with that. But yeah, there's not too much else I can say. Just expect a video on David Copperfield, probably spoiler free, or I don't know, maybe get into spoilers. Next week sometime, probably later in the week. Probably not. Usually I've been doing these videos on Tuesdays. It's probably going to be a Wednesday or Thursday, because I think I'm finishing it on Tuesday. So anyway, yeah, thanks for listening to my chat about this Russian author that I really enjoy. And remember to like and subscribe. And remember, you're always welcome at the Nook.